Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I thought I'd get on here and share how I became a traveling healthcare professional. I started traveling back in August of 2023 actually, so almost 2 years now. I recently had someone reach out to me and ask me questions about the process of becoming a traveling healthcare professional. So I thought I'd make a whole video explaining how to get started and all the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. For this video, I'm going to talk about radiology travelers because that's obviously what I have the most knowledge on. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to school. You'll have to have a degree or a certificate in the profession that you're wanting to travel with. Obviously, my iPad keeps turning off. So the first thing you're going to want to do is pick the modality you want. Radiology has so many to choose from. You don't have to just strictly do X-ray. You can do X-ray, CT, MRI, nuke med, mammo, sonography, or interventional radiology. If there is one I'm missing, I'm so sorry. I can't think of them all right now. So you'll pick one and go to school. Most are about 2.5-year programs. I went to an accelerated school, so it only took me 16 months to get my degree, which is really nice, but it was a lot of work. You had to go to school every day, and during clinical rotations you did 40-hour weeks, which was really tough, but I had a great job at the time where I could pick my schedule, so it just kind of worked out. With the accelerated program, everything is obviously a lot more faster, clearly in the name. Each month was one course. Each week you had an exam and quizzes throughout the week. I kind of like that better because it was only one course at a time as opposed to taking like 4 at a time, and my brain does not move that fast. There's also a lot of physics in this and math, so this was very helpful for me in learning and actually understanding what I was learning, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now you've finished school. Let's start traveling, right? Unfortunately, no. If you want to start traveling, most of these hospitals and clinics that are looking for people need you to have at least 1 year experience out in the field, which sucks for the people who want to travel right away, which was my case. I'm like, are you serious? I can't travel? But it's actually really good because you do want to have that experience before you get thrown out into the world. I think getting that knowledge of, not being afraid of machines and asking for help and being alone is so important with traveling. I think I needed that one. I think I did 1.5 years, so that was really good. I do appreciate the extra time in my field before being out. I do think that I did not get the best first year and some change experience because I worked at an urgent care, which was like the dumbest thing ever. If you're in school right now, do not go to an urgent care unless you really freaking want to. Don't go to an urgent care because as an X-ray tech, I did not do any X-rays there. I was a glorified MA, which I love MAs, okay? They freaking do everything for you. All praise to them. They need more money, but they taught me everything for MAs. Like I was doing drug tests, I was taking blood, I was doing urinalysis, I was doing COVID swabs. This was prime time COVID around the time the Delta variant was like really bad. So I was swabbing for COVID all day, giving flu injections, doing school physicals. Like that's not what I went to school for. So I felt like I did not use my degree at all there. That was a ridiculous amount of work. And, I feel for everybody who works in them. But if you're an X-ray tech and your plan is to travel, do not work at an urgent care. The next place I worked at was an imaging center, which was a lot better because I actually did only X-rays, which was completely different from what I was at before. And I actually learned a lot. So I do recommend something like that. But the absolute best place to be to get that experience is a hospital. I didn't get that experience, so I do struggle a little bit when it comes to landing a job at a hospital. So if you're at a hospital, you get the OR experience, you get the ER experience, you get the floor main experience, you get outpatient experience, you get a little bit of everything. So when you go to travel, nothing's gonna be like popping out at you and being like super confusing. So I do recommend a hospital. Gain all that experience, learn all the areas, learn all the machines, learn the portables. So yeah, I do recommend that. Okay, so you made it to your year experience and you're like, all right, I want to start traveling. Where do I start? So, again, I'm going to speak on my experience. The first thing I did was make an account with Vivian, which is a traveling professional website, and you can go on there and find jobs that you might be interested in, and that will get you in touch with recruiters who are working for these traveling agencies who will reach out to you and begin the process. Because I was so unfamiliar with traveling, this was the best website for me because I didn't know of like Aya or Travel Nurse, Cross Country. What are the other huge ones? I can't think of them right now. Yeah, so it'll put you in touch even with the like lesser known ones. So I do recommend this specific website if you don't know where to start. I feel like it's a good starting point for people. You make a whole profile, you upload like certificates, your licenses, and it's super easy to use, and it put me in contact with so many people right away. They're gonna call you and blow you up, just to let you know. But as a beginner, you kind of want that. And I feel like talking to multiple people from different agencies is such a smart way to go about it. You can learn what you like, what you don't like, and things like that. And you just learn a lot. So I do recommend that if you don't know where to start. Vivian put me in contact with my recruiter now, who I love to death. He's awesome. But it also put me in contact with like not the greatest people, very rude, clearly only want you for, one thing, like money, obviously. And I feel like it's very important that you know your worth. If someone's giving you bad vibes, there's like a million more out there who are going to treat you like a human and want the best for you, and obviously are going to give you the things that you're asking for. I feel like when you first get into it, you're not sure what you're looking for, but all I can say is if you have any bad vibes about any single person, get out of there. Also, I learned this at the very last minute and had no idea, no one told me. You need to have licenses for all these states. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I went to school in Florida and I worked in Florida originally, so I know that you need a license to work for a state, but I just did not think about it. In some cases, these places will hire you and let you work for them as long as you have a pending license, but it's best to have the licenses beforehand to avoid any confusion or chances of messing up your chance of getting a job. You know what I mean? You have to go to every state's Department of Health website and look at the process of getting a license. There are some states where you don't need a license to work in. For example, I think Alabama's one and Georgia was one. I've worked in Georgia twice, so I definitely know you don't need a state license to work there, but you do need to be certified through the ARRT. So as long as you have that, there's certain states that you can work in. None of the states that I would want to visit, besides Georgia. If you're planning on going to California, they have 2 different licenses that you would have to get. You'd have to be certified in the ARRT, then you have to get a state license saying that you can practice x-rays in the state. They also have a license for fluoroscopy, which is silly to me because obviously I am certified. That altogether, both licenses was over $200 something to get. At the end of the day, it's going to be worth it because I will make that money back in the first week of work. So another thing to really pay attention to while beginning your traveling experience is to pay attention to your income versus the cost of living in the area. So if you want to move to, let's say, California, you know that the cost of living is extremely high there. You need to make sure that your pay is good enough for your rent, all your bills, whatever you want to save, and some playtime money as well, or whatever you want to do for your free time. So one of the rules that us travelers like to pay attention to is whatever your pay is for 1 week, try and get your rent under that or right at it. Try not to go above it. I struggle with this. It always is above it because I just don't get paid well enough. If you go for what you make in a week as your rent, you'll have 1 week that's strictly for your rent, and then 3 other weeks where you can do whatever you want with that money, whether it be, bills, saving, whatever you like to do for fun. I think that's very smart. It's a beautiful rule. So if you start traveling, I would recommend you follow that rule. I do not, but someone has to. All right, you found a recruiter, you found a job, so now what? For my first contract, I worked in Atlanta, Georgia at a Northside facility. I love Northside. I love Georgia. So the first contract you get, someone will end up emailing you your first day instructions, and this will typically tell you where to go, where to park, who to meet, stuff like that. You can also use this time to get people's phone numbers. I do recommend doing that. Maybe the manager or the lead tech, someone you can contact just in case you get lost, you're running late, stuff like that. Next would be housing. So if you find something that you like, your next step is typically finding somewhere to live. A lot of people who travel for work, they use Furnish Finder. That is not my favorite thing to use. I've run into some pretty sketchy people on there and some scammers. So if you're using Furnish Finder, just be very mindful. Look at the rules on Furnish Finder. I feel like that saved me. It talks about like not wiring money to people, and the first thing scammers will do is tell you to wire them something. So if they ask for that, you know it's a scam. So just be very mindful of that. My favorite website to use is Hello Landing. I love Hello Landing. They are very professional and it's legit. It's not some weird shady person online asking you for stuff. It's a real website. They are typically in apartments with amenities. That's really nice, like pools and all that. I enjoy that a lot. I do recommend Hello Landing if you are starting your traveling journey. If you're going to a hospital that has other travelers in it, I do recommend reaching out to management to ask the travelers how they found their housing. Sometimes they found it in a lesser known website, or I don't know. Sometimes it's very helpful though. I did have to do that here. I'm actually in Boston right now and I had to do it for this contract because it was a little difficult to find housing this time around. So I did have my lead tech reach out to other travelers who are going to be at the hospital with me, and they gave some very good insight and information on where I should live. Another thing I recommend is doing a practice run when you get to your apartment, house, wherever you're staying. I do recommend if you're going to be using public transportation, looking it up and doing a practice run just so you know where you're going. I feel like doing a practice run really gets that anxiety of where am I going for the first day out of the way. It's so helpful. I do it every time I go anywhere. I recommend this. Do it on a weekend when there's not a lot of traffic. Even if you have to do it on a Monday, Tuesday morning when you're in traffic and you see how long it's going to take you, I think that is a really good thing to do before your first day. All the anxiety that comes with the first day, the last thing you want is to be late or to be anxious about where you're going, how to get there. So I do recommend doing that. Also, when you find a area that you're deciding you want to live in, I do recommend looking for the stores that you like. I personally hate driving around far to get anywhere. So I think a good rule of thumb is to make sure you're living close to a grocery store and a gas station and any other store that you want. So typically what I look for is the CVS. I love CVS, grocery store, and a gas station. All of these need to be really close to me because the last thing I want to do is go on a hike to do any of those things. So you are officially ready to become a traveler. My experience with traveling has been really awesome. Like I said, I've been doing it for almost 2 years now. I met so many different people from, different areas, different walks of life, and I feel like I've learned a lot. Nothing that I probably would have learned if I would have just stayed a full-time position somewhere. So I do love this. I get to travel cities that I've, never thought I would be living in. I get to make new friends and visit these cities again and go see them whenever I want. And honestly, it's been a really fun experience. And I do recommend everybody try it. This has been really helpful with my anxiety. I have like a really hard time not being alone, but doing things on my own. And I feel like, a lot of people look at me and they're like, I don't even know how you do that. Like, how do you just pick up and start somewhere new all the time? And I feel like I thrive off of it now. The beginning obviously was a little scary, but now I feel like I really am learning how to be on my own and being by myself. And the final most important thing that traveling has helped me with is my debt. I still have so much debt, but I am slowly paying it off. So after all my debt's paid, the next thing I'm going to try and work on is buying a home somewhere. So of course, in this freaking market, not going to happen for a while, but it will be more likely to happen without all the debt on me. So I have loved my experience traveling, and I hope that this video has helped you with figuring out if this is something that you want to do in the future. All right, that is it for this video. I hope that I was able to share some knowledge to y'all on how I became a traveler and all the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Or hopefully this gave you the push that you needed to begin your traveling journey. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below. Give this video a like for me, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.